Hey, I'm Caleb. Welcome back to another episode of Analysis and Aftermath. Today we'll be looking at Harbour Air Flight 5209, or the Vancouver Harbour floatplane collision that occurred between a de Havilland Beaver and a pleasure craft a couple months back. Actually, now that I record this, it's been quite a while, and I previously made a video, but the investigation wasn't finished, and now it is, so let's get into it. On Saturday, June 8th of 2024, a floatplane was taking off on Vancouver Harbour, which is a common thing as that is a very busy floatplane area, and it collided with a pleasure craft that happened to be crossing directly in front of it, as seen in this footage. Unfortunately, the collision completely destroyed the aircraft as soon as it collided with the boat, and the pleasure craft sustained some minor damage as well. Luckily, everyone aboard the boat and the aircraft survived with minimal injuries, which is amazing considering how much worse it could have been just by looking at the footage here. The aircraft in question was a 75-year-old de Havilland Beaver, Charlie Foxtrot Foxtrot Hotel Alpha, built in August of 1949. It's especially unfortunate to lose a de Havilland Beaver, as there are not many of them left flying anymore, except for some tourist flights, operating with floatplanes. For those who don't know, Harbour Air is one of the largest floatplane operators in the world, based in British Columbia, Canada, near Vancouver where the accident occurred. Originally, the theory was perhaps the pilot did not know of the boat, but air traffic control warned the plane of the boat. However, the investigation has now proved that the boat was at fault, and the pilot was not, as he was assured that the boat would be out of the path. As you can see, this occurred at Cole Harbour, just outside of Vancouver, which has a lot of popular floatplane routes flown in and out of it. As I mentioned, Cole Harbour Seaplane Base is one of the largest and busiest in the entire world, and Harbour Air its largest operator. As I mentioned, Harbour Air, the operator, has a large variety of floatplanes in their fleet, flying all sorts of jobs. According to their website, they fly the de Havilland 3 Turbo Otter, the single-engine turboprop variant, the Twin Otter, the twin-engine variant, the Grand Caravan, made by Cessna, also a turboprop on floats, and the de Havilland Beaver, the aircraft in question. The de Havilland Beaver is an extremely popular bush plane, perfect for jobs like these, and can be equipped with rugged floats, bush tires, and even skis. Despite no longer being produced, the plane is still quite popular. In fact, Harrison Ford owns one himself, and there's a great documentary linked above. The biggest upside of this accident is that no one was killed or seriously injured in what could have been a much worse crash. The downside is not only was a Beaver destroyed, but the pleasure craft sustained some damage too. Here you can see how floatplane centers operate a little bit, with some clips from my trip to Alaska back in 2019. I got to see how floatplanes come in and are parked and docked firsthand. This was very cool to see. Floatplane operations in remote areas of the world like this up in Alaska, or other places such as in Vancouver Harbour, are popular for tourists to take pleasure flights for sightseeing, as well as serving as a vital link connecting remote communities, where floatplanes may be the only way in and out. They transport personnel, equipment, and supplies, and up in Alaska and Canada, also people going out for hunting trips, which is pretty cool. De Havilland Beaver is such a cool plane. It's an old-school style airplane with traditional gauges and flight controls, and as you can see from the cockpit in this one, it's very much an older aircraft. Another item in this accident that I don't think many people considered properly is the difficulty that it is to operate a floatplane. Because the aircraft is operating on floats, it's very hard to slow down quickly because there are no wheels or brakes. Simply operating a floatplane also requires additional pilot training and certification to fly with floats. Also, since the aircraft can't stop quickly, they usually have designated almost shipping lanes where they operate. Additionally, as a pilot takes off, they have to pull back slowly to keep on the step, as it is known, and slowly ease the plane into the sky. This is due to the physical sensation of water tension and surface tension keeping the floats attached to the lake. And as I mentioned, as the pilot slowly goes to speed up the aircraft, the suction has to be overcome by the engine. This is also another reason why it's so hard for a floatplane to stop quickly, because of momentum and lack of friction like brakes, like you'd have on the ground. In the end, some valuable lessons have been learned from this accident, such as stricter rules on boats crossing where floatplanes operate, to prevent another tragedy like this from occurring. And like all accidents, the lessons learned are the most important takeaway, especially since everyone survived this ordeal. Well, that's all I have for you in this video. I hope you've enjoyed. If so, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications to all, leave me a comment, and also make sure to hype the video if you enjoyed it. It really helps out small channels like mine. Well, you know the drill. Until next time, I'll be wishing all float planes blue skies and tailwinds.